Good morning. Make sure my Bluetooth is connected so you can hear me. I think you should be able to hear me. Okay, that looks good. Awesome. Good morning. Welcome to yoga. Let's go ahead and get started. I had a restart for the come to a comfortable seat. Pull your flesh away from your sit bones and root down into the earth with your sit bones, and think about lengthening all the way up the spine through the crown of the head. Give yourself some shoulder rolls, either front or back, just letting the shoulder blades go down and the back. And then your palms, since we've been doing grounding practice, I would say your palms can be face down. Otherwise, if you feel like you want to be more open and receiving, then your palms can be up. But since we're doing grounding and we have them these last few weeks together, we'll do the palms facing down. Now I'll let the elbows come along the side body so they're not like popping out, right? And that way, from the side, you think we're used to kind of like being in our cars, being on our phones. So think about bringing the shoulders directly over the hips and then lengthening through the crown of the head. Soften your skin around your musculature. Close the eyes and just start to tune into the rhythm of your breath. Inhaling fully and exhaling fully. Just begin to observe the breath as it moves throughout the body. So there might be some places that feel really light and easy. There might be some places that just feel neutral as the breath moves throughout the body. And there might be some places that feel like it got a little stuck or it's tight. And with that, you could just kind of take those little pauses and those little tight places, maybe imagine or visualize that spot. Like say, for instance, if it's in, maybe you have a neck, think about that part of your neck having its own set of lungs. So in your next inhalation, just kind of opening up that area, exhaling, kind of like you're sweeping the cobwebs away from these corners of your body with your breath. But we're not judging or anything like, oh, these old bones, or telling some story about it. We are just observing, right? So that means not attaching to the outcome. And then as you're still scanning the body with breath, then we come in to scan the mind, and the same thing here. So if the mind gets attached to any type of story, same thing with the exhalation, let it go, return to the breath, return to the body, return to the present moment. And then you can bring your palms together in front of your heart, letting the thumbs and the pinkies press evenly against one another. So the thumbs come into the sternum rises back to meet the thumbs. And in this small little place here between your palms, if you want to set an intention for your practice, it can be very powerful to do so. So that can just be to be in the breath, to be present, but it can also be for compassion or gratitude. So we're letting it just be one word. That way, if the mind begins to wander, you can bring yourself back to your intention, this one word, back to the breath. So whatever that is for you today, just hold it in your mind and your heart for a moment. And we'll inhale together fully. And then we'll exhale. Follow the mind to the heart, releasing the palms, bringing the head up slowly, opening the eyes brightly. Good morning, everyone. I'm Vanessa. Thanks for joining me in our yoga flow today. A few weeks ago with allergies, and I'm not sure where you're at what the allergy situation is there, but I'm in Austin, Texas, and we definitely have a lot of mold. We have a lot of cedar. With the rain that has been happening, and things are happening now. So I thought I would show you a few things. We did a little bit of this lymph drainage a couple weeks ago. And so when we think about lymph and how it creates inflammation in the body, but also if we don't drain it, then that has more cause for your body to have like infection or getting like nasal infections or sinus infections and things like that. Like woke up a little bit of sinusy, but I was outside for most of the day with all the pollen and things in the air. So we're going to take a fist, and of course, like if you have like jojoba oil is something that I've been using for my face, or maybe a rosehip oil. Everybody's skin is different. It would be like less pulling. So we're going to do this gently because ideally you would want to have some type of facial oil on. But what we're going to do is going to take our fists into the neck here and just kind of come behind the ear. And the reason we're doing this is when we start to do lymph drainage in the face, and sometimes people will call it face yoga or whatever, we want to kind of allow this to be free, because that way when we start draining the lymph, it has some place to go. Otherwise, it kind of just gets caught. You don't want to get caught in your throat chakra. So as you're doing this, you can even come behind the temples here. There's a little acupressure point, and then right behind the ears and kind of like drain it down. That's also another point there. So that way, you know, and if you've ever gotten scalp massage or facials, you might be pretty familiar with some of these things. But, and if you've ever done that gua sha with those little stones or jade rollers, it's similar. There's like a whole technique, which before when I first got mine, I was just kind of doing it. However, there's actually techniques of doing the neck, behind the neck, to release this lymph. Then you can kind of take your index fingers, make a little nub. And I like to do, usually for sinuses, like here in the eyebrow area, gently around the eyes, but sometimes taking the little point of your tip right here into this little crease of your nasal fold. And kind of going up with the cheeks and then around that ear, down the neck. You see already I feel a little looser in my face. So you can always do this every morning if you want. I like to do, it's kind of nice. But then once we do this drainage, there's also a thing called tapping, which I've learned, which you can do just with your fingertips, or you can also take small fists and kind of make some tapping on your chest, like Tarzan or something. And what this does, especially if you have like chest congestion, like say you woke up and the nasal drainage has gone down to the chest, so you might be having like hay fever or something like that where you can't breathe as much. This will break up any type of phlegm or something that you have, so it can be expelled from the body. Just so you know, the more you know. And then these are also things that you can do to wake up your little zones in your body. So you can even like tap on the hands, tapping on the outside. You'll see people doing this. And these are also types of things that people can do. Just stay present in the body. You can do the bottoms of your feet if you want to, taking some of this just to get that root chakra activated. It's just one little thing to do that you may not have known. And if you did, well, now you know. Let's come to a tabletop position. We'll start with some simple cat-cow. So my knees are directly underneath my hips. My palms and wrists are underneath my shoulders. My fingers are spread wide. And for me, I did a lot of standing yesterday, so I'm going to stretch my my fascia here by tucking the toes under. This will be a little more intense. You can always be on the tops of your feet also if that's something that your body wants to do. I'm not locking out my elbows here. So as I inhale, tailbone goes up to the sky. My nose is slightly curling up towards the ceiling, but I'm not crunching the back of the cervical spine. As I exhale, chin to chest, belly button back to spine. And then I move with the breath. Letting the movement be initiated by the breath. Belly drops, exhale, belly button draws back, curling. Inhaling. And exhaling. So as you're moving through your cat-cows, if it starts to feel more natural, to start to close the eyes and inquire within. By that I mean, well, the same thing as we were doing when we were centering. You're just observing the breath as it moves throughout the body now in this cat-cow position. But maybe you want to make little circles with your hips and start to move a little more organically, but still linking the breath and the movement. So maybe now you go from cow pose as you exhale to cat pose, maybe sinking it back to child's pose. Your toes are still tucked under, it's going to be more intense that way. Just be aware. Inhale. Exhaling, just moving with the breath. The next time you come through your movement and you come into child's pose, we're going to stay there. It's your choice if you want to breathe more into the low back to keep the knees together, or if you want to breathe more into the hips and the groin, you'll take your knees wide, letting the toes touch. Maybe the forehead touches the earth here. You can use your palms to press forward if your forehead's on the earth. That way you just get a little more stretch. Allow the sit bones to sink over the heels just a little bit more. And then we'll take a simple twisted child's pose. I'm weaving my left arm underneath my right here, coming to the temple of my left side. One more breath. And then we'll release and we'll change sides. I'm going to turn around so that way my back isn't to you. Weaving my right arm underneath now, coming to the right temple here. Breathe. Relax the jaw. One more. And then release. Come back to your tabletop position. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, cat pose. Rinsing the spine. Keeping the hips over the knees in this tabletop position, I'm going to come down to my forearms. So my elbows stay directly underneath my shoulders. I like to grab opposite elbows. That helps me map it out. Everybody's bodies are different. You can take prayer hands or interlace here. And then we're going to come into, this is kind of like a little dolphin part, but really we're coming into the heart and the chest. So we're opening up the back body as we kind of do a cat-cow from here. It's going to feel a little weird, but it might feel a little opening also. So inhale, think about spreading the sit bones and drawing the heart forward like cow pose. As you exhale here, belly button draws back. Same thing, chin to chest. Just kind of taking it more up the spine now with this little back bend action. Moving to the rhythm of your breath, inhaling, exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. ¿Cómo se siente en tu cuerpo? Inhalar, exhalar. Next time we come through, we're going to step it back. So you can stay on your knees, you can step it back, and then we'll come into a forearm plank. Bring the heart forward, reach out through the heels, breathe, and feel how strong you are. You're going to puff up a little bit in the shoulder blades here, but you're not curling in, you're not hanging in the belly either. Reach out through the heels, just keep your spine in alignment. One more breath. We'll come out into Sphinx pose. So if you have any low back stuff going on, I recommend taking your feet a little bit wider than hip distance apart, like I'm doing that so today. Or you can also just have your feet hip distance apart. But I'll remeasure, have my opposite elbows and the palms open up here in my Sphinx pose. But I'm using my palms as like pretending they have little suction cups and drawing them back as I draw the heart forward. The pubic bone is rooted into the earth, and even so, my 10 toes, even the pinkies, and you might even see my knees lift here. Inhaling, the crown of the head up towards the ceiling, and then exhale, looking over the right shoulder. Inhaling to center, and exhaling over the left shoulder. Inhaling to center. Now just squeeze the shoulders, drop the chin into the chest, shake it out here. And we can do that once again. Inhaling. Exhaling over the left shoulder, or right shoulder, my bad. I think it might look like the left shoulder to you though. Inhaling to center, and then exhaling over the right shoulder. Inhaling to center, squeezing, shaking it out. You're gonna stay on our belly and just observe how the body feels when your belly is on the earth. Like a lot of like snakes and animals, obviously this is the lead up to Clover Pose, but just how safe your body feels being supported by the earth. So I'm going to bring my right forearm parallel to the front of my mat. And then here you might want to bring your feet more into alignment. So that means more hip distance apart. You don't have to if you have that low back stuff going on. Be wary. And I'm going to bend my left knee. We're going to just kind of take a little quad stretch here. But what I'm doing is I'm squaring the shoulders. I'm still rooting into this back toe, into the very top of the toe pad here. And then as I'm kicking my foot into my hand on this side here, you can always like reach around if you want to. And I'm trying to keep the spine square so that way it's not like all misaligned. One more breath. And then we will switch. So now I'm bringing that left forearm parallel to the front of the mat, reaching back for that right foot. Stretching here, squaring the shoulders out. So I'm still pressing into the forearm, pressing into the top of that left toe pad, this extended one here. Release. Bring your hands to either side of your sternum. Inhale, press it up and back. We're going to come into our very first downward facing dog. So take a moment to fill out your dogs. Don't be locking out the elbows. Soften them here, soften the neck. Maybe if you have low back stuff going on, you might need to take your feet a little bit in. So it's going to be a shorter but wider dog. So the pinky toes might touch the outer mat or maybe even be off the mat. Press strongly back so that the weight is back in the heels without locking out any of your major joints. Shake your head, yes and no. Maybe walk the dog by pedaling out the feet. Then look at your hands, and as we begin, we'll walk our feet up to meet our hands, coming into our first forward fold of the day, so Uttanasana. The tendency, as you can see here, is to hang back into the heels. Soften the knees with your feet hip distance apart, spread out the toes, and think about drawing your sit bones directly over the heels. Now, if you have really tight quads or hamstrings like me, you may need to bend your knees quite a bit. Hands can be on the ankles, fingertips can be on the earth, or fingertips and palms can be on the shins. We're going to inhale, come up halfway, reaching through the crown and the tail, exhale, fold. Doing that 2 more times, moving to the rhythm of your breath. And inhale, rolling it all the way up to standing. And exhale, hands to the heart. Coming into Samasthiti, our equal standing pose. So sometimes people like to have their feet together, and sometimes people have their feet hip distance apart. I'll leave that up to you. Shoulders down the back. And I'm not even locking out my standing leg. So we were working with the quad stretch, which we'll get to in a moment. Take a moment. Palms forward, shoulders up and down the back. Now we're in mountain pose. Keeping the legs not locked, right? So unlocked and softly bent. We are going to come into, well, let's do some little warm-ups first. Inhale, arms out and up. Exhale, cactus the arms, open the chest. Yes. Inhale. Exhale, fold forward or swan dive. And what I mean by that is bending the knees and taking it out to the side. This protects the low back. You're more than welcome to go in a flat back if you're ready for that right away. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, fold. And inhale, rolling it all the way up to standing. Maybe taking the arms out to the side and taking up a lot of space. Exhale, hands to the heart. Once again, inhale, arms out and up. Exhale, cactus the arms, open the chest. You can even shake your head out here if you like. Inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, roll up or maybe reverse swan dive. Feeling a little more warm now. Exhale, hands to the heart. Last one, just like such, moving to the rhythm of your breath. We'll meet in Samasthiti once you're done with your round. Take a moment to come into your breath. And then we're going to come into a little balancing posture as we're already standing. So I'm going to root all of my weight into my left foot here. And even here, I'm just going to bring my left hand to my hip, and I'm going to reach back for that right ankle. So you'll see how my knee kind of flopped out. What we want to do here is draw the knees kind of in towards the center line or the midline. I'm not locking out this standing leg, because once I lock out, you'll see it's much more difficult for me to maintain my balance, especially if you're on a carpet. I'm going to show you from the side what this looks like. Okay, sorry, this side. So as I'm rooting into my left leg, I'm reaching back for my right. Or maybe I reach for the inner arch. You don't have to. You can be here. And this can be your dancer pose. Just doing that little quad stretch here. Moving towards dancer, but this is the prep, right? It's opening the chest, but squaring the shoulders, just like we were when we were on our belly. Release, shake it out. We're going to do that on the other side. Now turn around so you can see what I'm doing. So now I'm rooting my way into my right foot, and as I reach back from my left foot. So you can start with your hand on the outside of the foot, but eventually you'll want to be in the inner arch. That just helps open this shoulder and the chest a little bit more, squaring myself to the front. Right now I'm just kicking my foot in my hand. I'm not even leaning forward really, drawing everything into midline, belly button draws in, and I'm rooting down to lift up. One more breath here, and release, and shake it out. Inhale your arms out and up. Exhale, cactus the arms, sink the hips, chair pose. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, we're going to send the left foot back. We're going to come into a lunge with the right foot forward. So in the standing lunge, my right knee is tracking over my right ankle and reaching back with the left hip, or left heel, my bad. And I'm squaring everything out. You can have your hands on your hips if that's fine. You can even have your hands by your side or your hands into a prayer pose if you like. Traditional would be having your arms out. You could also have cactus arms here. Take a nice big breath. Let's inhale here. I'm going to keep my left arm lifted. I'm going to bring my right palm to my right thigh, and I'm just going to crescent over to the right side. Inhale back to center. Exhale. Hands down to either side of your right foot. Step it back. Plank pose. Fill your belly. You could always come down to your knees here. And then exhale down to the belly. Inhale up. Cobra pose. And exhale, fold. Press it back. Downward facing dog. And use your downward dog to be resetting the spine. So maybe taking a few breaths here, inhaling, exhaling. And we're going to go straight to the other side. So now I'm going to take the left hand or left foot up and back as I exhale, bring the left foot forward. That would be weird. And then we'll come into our lunge on this side. So really reaching back. And so in the higher lunge, the left knee tracking over left ankle, we want to protect our knees. And if you have anything going on in your low back, it might be more beneficial for you to find this lunge maybe by bending the back knee, taking some pressure off the low back, or possibly sitting the torso slightly forward at an angle, or both. Your choice, it's your body, and see what feels best for you. So finding whatever variation you took on that first side. And then we'll lift that right arm up. Now bring my left palm on top of my left thigh as I exhale over to the left. Inhale to center. Exhale, plant the hands, step it back. Plank pose, so maybe you stay up or come on your knees. Exhale, down. Inhale. Cobra pose, exhale. Press it back, downward dog. Inhale through the nose, let it go through the mouth, maybe even like horse breath. And then we'll inhale, look at your hands, walk your feet forward and meet your hands. Lengthen up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana, exhale, fold, and then bring it all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart.
All right, so far so good. Okay, so we're getting a little stretched out. We're moving towards our dancer pose, and then we're gonna do some things on the belly because we're doing the quad stretching, which has to do with more internal rotation. I think last week we worked more with the tree pose, which is externally rotated in the hip, whereas these postures are more internal rotation, so the hip stays square. If that makes any sense. You can always put any questions you might have in the chat. So we'll come back here. You can have your left hand on your hip, rooting the weight into the left foot, reaching back for my right foot here. But the knee draws in. So maybe you're here, right? And as you begin, we can start to move into our dancer pose by kicking our foot into our hand and leaning a little bit forward here. Now, if you want to extend that left arm alongside your left ear, maybe take a mudra with that hand, you can. Dancer pose. Just trying to still square the shoulders to the front. And then when you're ready, release, shake it out, shake it out. We're going to do that one more time. We're going to go to the other side first. So rooting now into the right foot and reaching back with my left foot, changing sides. One side might be stronger than the other, and that's pretty normal. So here, you can always keep your hand on your hip. Drawing to midline. As I begin to kick my foot into my hand, I start to lean my body slightly forward while keeping the shoulders square. Then maybe bringing the right arm alongside my right ear, maybe taking a mudra here as I kick back. And your drishti would be that gazing point of your mudra with your hands. If you were trying to do that, let it go, shake it out. What I like about dancer pose is dancer pose represents the flames of transformation. So perhaps you are making changes with every eclipse, new moon energy. And so this is time to like out with the old, burn away what we no longer need, and implement the new habits that we're trying to bring. So let's try it out one more time as we begin to move through our sequence. So rooting into the left foot, reaching back with the right. Squaring, maybe taking the mudra. Exhale. Folding forward. Now, if you wanted to, in order to get out of this posture, you instead of coming forward, but I think it's fun to do so. You could always kind of move it into a warrior three if you wanted. Oh, and if it doesn't happen, that's okay. See, not happening now. Try too hard. And then come back, shake it out. Other side. Reaching back with the left foot, drawing the knee in towards the midline, kicking back, taking the mudra. Maybe if you wanted to, trying to move into a warrior three by just squaring the hips. Hands can come to the heart. I find that easiest. Or just releasing and letting it go. Good job. You're doing great. Inhale, arms out and up. As you exhale, cactus the arms. Sink it down. Chair pose. Maybe sink it down a little lower. It's the heart. One more breath. Exhale, fold it in. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, let it go. Inhale, left foot comes back. We come into our high lunge with the right foot forward. Maybe hands to heart. So I just talked about coming into warrior three, so I thought since that also has to do with internal rotation, we can come there from here. We can come to warrior three from this lunge posture if you choose, but it can be tricky. If you want, you could even make it a little shorter because this could actually be your warrior three. If your hands are at your heart to your palm, your right knee's tracking over, you could just lean your body forward. This might be, you're kind of like coming off onto that little pinky toe, right, or your big toe. And this could be your warrior three with the toe still on the earth. Now, once the toe starts to come off of the earth, you kind of suck that hip into its socket and then leaning forward, toes draw down. And then when you're ready to release it, you kind of come back into your lunge, maybe kicking the leg back further. Does that make sense? Let's try that one more time as we're in our little lunge here, hands to heart. So maybe making it a little shorter if you need to. Coming up to the big toe. And here, this could be your warrior three. Once that toe comes up, suck it into its socket, flex the foot, toes face down. And then as you're ready to release, maybe coming up, yes. Exhale, cactus the arms, and let it go. Hands on either side of right foot, step it back, plank Pose. And then exhale, take it down. Inhale, Cobra Pose. You can also do Sphinx. I didn't mention that earlier, but we have talked about doing what's best for your own body in your practice. Inhale through the nose, let it go through the mouth. And then let's go straight to the other side. So now we are lifting the left foot up and back as we exhale. The left foot comes forward. We'll come into our high lunge here. Set it up. Foundation of your feet. You can bring your palms to your heart. And then if you want, you can kind of make it a little bit shorter. We'll come into that warrior three from here. And what we're going to do is coming up onto that big toe pad, leaning forward. Maybe I stay here, or maybe I lift the toes. So you'll see when I say suck the hip into its socket, it's more like just kind of drawing and activating here. So it's not like uneven. Does that make sense? And I can feel my low back if my hips are square or not. It also makes it a lot harder to balance if my hips are not square. And once I'm ready to come out of it, lunge. It helps to find a place to look at while you're trying to balance anywhere. Maybe not on yourself in the mirror or something, but sometimes a little drishti or gazing point that just helps to find the balance. Let's try that one more time. Coming from here, hands in our lunge, and our hands are at our heart. We're coming up onto that big toe pad, leaning forward, maybe warrior three. And then release, high lunge. Exhale. Open the heart. Plant the hands on either side of that left foot. Step it back. Plank pose. Are you feeling pretty strong today? 2 more breaths. And then exhale. Take it down. You can come to your Cobra Pose. Take a couple here. And then just kind of make a little pillow at the front of your mat. Wiggle your hips. You could even release anything you might going on a low back. So now we're going to come back to our stretch before we make the apex of our pose with our dancer here. So I'm going to bring my right forearm parallel. Once again, I'm reaching back for my left. Now, if you're feeling a little more open in your quad, maybe you can start to work that foot into your elbow neck, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Square the shoulders, relax the jaw, space between the ear and the neck. Release. Left forearm parallel, reach back for the right. Square the shoulders to the front, relax the neck and the jaw. There we go. So from here, if you want, you can have your knees wider to just windshield wiper. Open side, releasing, releasing, releasing. And then we'll take it up and back. Come through downward facing dog. And we'll move through our little sequence. One last time. It's a little baby one. Inhaling, looking at the hands, walking the feet forward to meet the hands. Uttanasana. Coming up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, bring it all the way up. And exhale, hands to the heart. Okay. Are we ready to move into our sequence now? Inhale, take the arms out and up. Exhale, cactus the arms, open the chest. Inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come up halfway. As we exhale, sending the left foot back, we'll come into our high lunge once again. Hands can come to the heart. We kind of know where we're going now, right? So we start to lean forward in our lunge, and we'll come into our warrior three here. Now this is the tricky part, right? We're in our warrior three. Now we're going to try to move from warrior three to dancer. This is not easy. So what I like to do is kind of bring the knee into the belly That helps me find my balance. I'll take my right hand to my hip and I'll reach back for that ankle. There's a couple of different ways to move into it, but now you're here. If you want to extend out, you can, and you're in dancer pose. And then when you're ready to release, maybe you move back, warrior three. Maybe you come into high lunge, and then you're ready to exhale, let it go. Plank pose. Move through vinyasa if you want. Or not, your choice. Yogi's choice here, moving a little faster, creating a little more heat. Inhale through the nose, let it go through the mouth. And then we'll inhale the left foot up and back as we exhale, draw the left foot forward. We'll come into a high lunge here. Hands to heart. All right. From here, maybe walking down on some back toes in slightly, leaning the torso forward, and then we'll come into our warrior three. From warrior three, maybe bringing the knee into the belly, coming into a balance, standing balancing pose, maybe reaching for that ankle, left hand comes to hip. When you find your balance, right? Extending out, dancer pose. Coming out of dancer by releasing the foot, hands come to the heart, squaring the hips, warrior three, and when we're done, high lunge. Good job. Inhale here, exhale. Release, hands to either side. Step it back, plank. Maybe you're moving through vinyasa. Maybe you just come down and do some cobras. And once you're done, you will come into child's pose, taking either the knees together or the knees wide, yogi's choice. And from here, we'll walk our fingertips back to where we're sitting on our heels. That's okay for you. So sitting on the heels here. So from here, we'll start to cool down the practice, and we will either, instead of taking a bridge pose, we're going to come into a camel pose, which is opening, which is also internally rotated as far as the hips have to stay square and everything's moving in versus outer with the hips, if that makes sense. So in this first variation of camel pose, I'm going to come to standing on my knees, and I'll show you what this looks like from the front. There's a couple of different ways to do it, and I don't have a block here. You could have a block in between your thighs if you wanted in order to help you squeeze that and have the idea of that squeezing action coming through the midline. But it's the same thing that we've been working with this whole class, right? Drawing to a midline. Now, personally, I like to keep my toes tucked under, my heels stay straight up. That means that my ankles aren't flopping either way. So I find it to be a little more in alignment for my body, but you can use your own discretion as that. So my knees are distance apart. Bringing my palms up my low back. This is the first, right? So when I'm here, the fingertips are pointing straight down. Shoulders are back, elbows are squeezing towards one another. And even if my ribs and my belly pop out like they just did, I'm drawing them back in. My chin is kind of like not tucked in, but it's a little bit lengthened. And I'm thinking about not crunching in the back of the cervical spine, but imagining that instead of this like bending action, it's more of a curve, like if you were laying over one of those yoga balls, okay? So here, inhaling here. As we exhaling, I'm activating my belly and I'm activating the front of my quads here as I exhale, leaning back any amount. You'll notice how my chin is drawing in and I'm lengthening through the crown of the head versus just letting it hang back and crunching the back of the cervical spine. One more breath. And then activate everything coming forward. Release the toes if they're tucked under. Sit back. Close the eyes and observe the body. So we're going to do that 2 more times. And you can stick with this first variation that I gave you, or I'm going to continually add on. So we'll come back to standing on the knees and knees hip distance apart. I'm going to keep my toes tucked under. Now in this variation, my palms can be alongside the side body. palms facing one another. The same action of rolling the shoulders back and squeezing the elbows towards one another applies, and also drawing the ribs back in towards the spine applies, if that makes sense to you. So inhaling here as I exhale, I lean back. Any amount. Sometimes people like to even interlace their hands here. That might make it easier for you. Give it a go. One more breath. And then using the fronts of your legs, using the front of your belly, bringing it back up, untucking the toes, sitting back, closing the eyes, observe. Come into our last one. So what we're doing when we are taking back bends like that and opening the heart and the chest, like kind of exposing the heart and the chest, is that we kind of are activating our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, right? So we're learning how to regulate. And that's like our fight or flight, right? So you'll notice like kind of gets you more energized for the back bends, and forward folds are a little more cooling. So the observing just helps regulate the breath of like, oh, what's happening in the body. And when we go out to the world and something is making us a little, we can learn how to regulate ourselves. Coming back to standing on the knees, thighs hip distance apart, tucking the toes under. Now, in this variation, we're going to reach back for the ankles, right? But what we don't want to happen is for us to be like twisting our spine all over. So when we have our palms alongside the body, they're facing one another, we're going to try to reach for the ankles at the same time. Now that can kind of be a little bit difficult if you're new to this camel posture, but it is doable, and just try not to make your spine move too much or twisting it around. So activating the belly, activating the fronts of the thighs as we inhale here. Exhale, lean back. Maybe you find both heels. Once you find the heels, reach in, lift the heart forward, press into the heels. Activate the belly. And then once you come out, activate everything to bring yourself up to standing. Untuck the toes, sit back, close the eyes, observe the breath in the body. Observar su respirar en tu cuerpo. So far, so good. Okay. From here, we're going to just do a seated cat-cow. So as we inhale, we'll take the heels of my palms into the creases of my thighs, open the chest, exhale. And then if sitting on the heels too much like this is not good for you, you can always come to an easy cross-legged seated position. And release. Take your arms wide, thumbs back. We're going to come into an eagle arm. So I'm going to show you what that looks like from the front. And you can also do this in a cross-legged position. The left elbow underneath the right elbow, palms facing one another. So now you know where we're at. Let me show you what that looks like from the side. And the reason this is important is because usually we're just here, right? But think about lifting the elbows, drawing the shoulder blades back into the body. And it's like I'm trying to press my palms towards one another. And like if I was trying to press my forearms through one another. Inhale here. As you exhale, just curl in. Chin to chest. You'll feel this in your back of your shoulder blades. Inhale. Coming up. Release it. Give yourself some shoulder wrist circles. Can I talk today? Must be Mercury retrograde. That's almost over. Woohoo! And then open it wide, other side. So now we take right elbow underneath the opposite. So lifting the elbows, shoulders back. Using isometric resistance of your palms. And then exhale, curling in, chin to chest, belly button back to spine. And then inhale, bring it up. Release the hands, circles with the wrists. That was the position, the águila. That's how we say eagle in Espanol. And while we're here moving the wrists, We're already sitting back. Go ahead and come up off those heels. Maybe tap the tops of your feet. Flex it out if you need to. I'm going to tuck my toes under. We're going to do a last little fascia stretch for your feet and also for your wrists. So I'm taking my fingertips to where they face my knees now. And this is going to can be a little more intense depending on what's going on. So my wrist is underneath my shoulder, but I'm going to sit back. So the more, the more my wrist is forward, the more intense of a wrist stretch this will be. This is helpful for carpal tunnel, like sitting and typing, anything you may have here. Ooh, and I like to do one at a time. If you want, you can take this opposite hand and be on the top of the hand. If that might be too much, be wary of your body. And then let's switch. Whew. Maybe sitting back. When we're ready, release. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, cat pose. And then we'll come through to seated. Let's see how much more time we have. Take a sip of your water if you need to. So we're comfortably seated. Hopefully it'll be in the middle of your mat. That way you can roll down onto the back. So we already did our back bend of camel pose, but we're just going to do one bridge here just to see how it feels, right? Because bridge is a little bit different. So feet are hip distance apart, knees point up toward the ceiling. Palms come face down, maybe the fingertips graze the heels. You could also have your robot arms if you like here. If you're feeling open enough in the chest, since we did all those little cactus, you're more than welcome to take the bind if you want to. So from here, we're going to inhale, press into the feet, lift the hips and the pelvis up towards the ceiling. You'll notice that my neck's in a very precarious position here, so we don't want to be looking around when we are in shoulder stand or in bridge, which is the similar postures. So lifting here, notice if you're gripping your bum, see if you can kind of soften the grip, press to the feet, send the knees and the shins forward and lift the hips up a little more. Maybe now you roll the shoulders under and take the bind, but you don't have to take the bind. Think about squeezing the thighs together just like you were in camel pose. And then as you exhale, release the hands and release everything down into the earth. Feet as wide as your mat, let your knees touch. And then from here, just begin to windshield wiper the legs from side to side. So we're doing our last final sequences for practice today in our internal rotation practice. So we'll keep it like such. We'll come into legs in the air or shoulder stand. So it's your choice what you would choose to do with your body. So either here, sometimes I like to take palms underneath my bum if I'm just coming into legs in the air or modified shoulder stand. You could also do this as your sacrum is on a book or a block, feeling the grounding work that we have done from the feet moving down to the earth. Or if you have a shoulder stand practice, we roll up. If candlestick is more easy for you, candlestick is where the toes are a little bit more above the head, whereas shoulder stand, the idea is that we want our toes to be in alignment with our eye line of vision. But you squeeze everything to midline, and you definitely don't want to be moving your neck from side to side here. Now from shoulder stand, or if you have legs in the air, you're more than welcome to unfurl out, coming into a fish posture, which I think we did last week. But you could also take Halasana and Plow Pose. Now in Plow Pose here, same thing, you don't want to be moving your neck from side to side, but if your toes don't touch the earth, you want to keep your hands at your low back. Now, if the toes touch the earth, you could also take the bind. Breathe. Now to come out, I like to unfurl my hands, use my belly as I slowly, slowly unfurl out onto the mat. And as I begin to extend, I'm going to bring those palms, little triangle shape, directly underneath my bum. So the triangle will be underneath my sacrum. Elbows along the side body. I press into the forearms and the elbows, point the toes, lift the chest. And it's like I'm bringing weight onto the crown of my head, but there actually is no weight there. And your lips like purse like a fish, hence this modified fish posture. So we've done two postures where we open the throat chakra, the camel pose and this pose. Then exhale, release. Hug the knees into the belly. Rock gently on your low back from side to side. Now, if there is any postures your body is craving to do, but we didn't get to do today, then I want you to invite you to do so. But from here, from palms on the knees, fingertips pointing the toes, we'll come into a little Apanasana to rinse the spine as we inhale. Arms straighten and knees fall away as we exhale, knees into the belly. Now, the next time that your knees come away at a 90-degree angle, we're coming to a twist, supine twist. So arms can just come out to a T. We'll take a stat knee stay as we exhale over to the left. Maybe the gaze goes towards that right thumb. Doesn't have to, though. Inhale to center. Exhale, take it to the other side. One more breath. Back to center. Hug the knees into the belly. Allow the soles of the feet to come together, heels into the groin for Supta Baddha Konasana, supine bound angle pose. Allow the knees to kind of butterfly away from you as you draw the tailbone, unfurling it out. So you feel the length all the way from your tail to the crown of your head. Try to keep everything on the earth as we open up those soles of the feet up towards the ceiling, coming into happy baby. Knees draw back towards the armpits. Feet rock from side to side. And then your final posture, you'll begin to unfurl out into Shavasana, corpse pose. If laying supine on the back like this is not good for you, you can always have soles of the feet together, knees wide, maybe putting a couple of pillows or blankets underneath your knees so that you're not gripping with the inner groin here, and you can relax. You can also have your feet as wide as your mat and your knees come together like we were after bridge. Maybe just have your palms on your belly or your heart and belly, or just alongside. And you're more than welcome to even come into a seated posture for meditation. But wherever you are today, acknowledge that as you inhale, exhale, let everything go, and feel the support of the earth underneath the body. Let your skin hang over your musculature like it's a sheet. Just let everything go on the exhale. So softening the brow, softening the eyes and the eyelids and throat and the jaw. Releasing the shoulder blades all the way out to the elbows, to the forearms, to the wrists, to the palms, to the fingertips. Settling into the support of the earth. Releasing the upper, mid, and low back. Releasing the hips, releasing the glutes, the backs of the thighs, the knees, the calves, ankles, feet, and toes. Settling into the support of the earth.
settling into deeper relaxation with each exhalation. Slowly bring your attention back to your breath, back to your body. Inhaling fully, exhaling fully. All the way out to your fingers and all the way out to your toes. Maybe wiggling the fingers and wiggling the toes. Maybe making some circles with the wrists and the ankles, just slowly stirring the body awake. You can take a nice long body stretching all the way through your hands and your feet as you let go with a big sigh. Shake it out. You can do one more just like that as you inhale, long body stretch through, stretching the hands and the feet. Let it go, big sigh. You can slowly start to bring your knees into your belly, front your back. Give yourself a hug. Rock gently. So you rock over to one side and just make a little pillow with your bottom arm. If you're seated, you can just start to make a little wiggle movement if you like. Coming into a nice comfortable seat. And when you're ready, you can use the strength of your hands to press yourself up. And meet us in our comfortable cross-legged position. Eyes closed. And just bring your hands to your heart. And just to observe the mind and the body and the breath for a moment. Notice if anything shifted for you today in your flames of transformation. Let's thank our bodies for all the work that they did today. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to honor yourself and honor your practice. I mean, half the challenge is just showing up. So, yeah, I wanted to thank you for just showing up. Come back to your intention. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my practice with you today. It's my honor and privilege to be able to do so. The light and dark in me sees and acknowledges the light and dark in you. Namaste. Hey yogis, thanks so much for coming to practice today. Went a little over, but we started a little late since I couldn't get the camera to work. But if you have any questions, just put it in the chat. Bounty and Soul has a few more classes that are available to you. So there's Zumba, and then there's also Gentle Flow Yoga. And of course, I have 2 more classes to teach on Saturday mornings. It's been a pleasure to be with y'all at 8:30 Central Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And if you have any questions, just send it into the chat. We go back and I can look at that, or you can
hit up my email too. I can put that in the chat as well. Let me do that. That way, if you have questions or requests for next class, that is my email. But until then, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday, and whatever you choose today, you already are getting it great started. So until next time, see you then. Bye.